I remember one occasion running across something that's attributed to Mother Teresa, and they were suggesting how amazing it was that one woman could impact personally on as many folks really needing a little hands-on care. And that over the course of her lifetime, committed and dedicated to that work, she is reputed to have touched the lives of over 42,000 people. Personally. Personally, she did that. When I asked about it, she said, it is no big thing. And please don't think of it as I went out one day to find 42,000 people to help with the healing process. It's not it at all. I just responded to the one that I saw there in the street. And I did that over the years 42,000 times. And rendering it, therefore, within the confines of our possibilities. Every one of us can perform a small act. And she said, it's not the big stuff. It's the little things that are done with great love that impact so dynamically on the human condition. So as you move through your life, she's encouraging us, just pay attention. And if there be somebody there, like the Good Samaritan story, it's a story about paying attention. We're constantly encountering in our walk through life opportunities to experience the blessing, the grace of the inevitable reward for putting our energies into the service of someone else. It just feels so darn good to know that. I think it was Gandhi that suggested that we haven't known what it's like to be fully human until we've seen the look in the starving person's eyes as we hand them the loaf of bread. So let us be bread dispensers in that great sense, in that grand sense. Let's not miss a case, because boy, each one of those little gestures of caring and concern can carry weight that we know not of, can touch lives in ways that are compellingly beautiful and inspiring. I invite you to consider this part of the spin-off from the passage of Steve Jobs. He writes, when I was 17, I read a quote that went something like, if you live each day as if it were your last, someday you'll most certainly be right. Made an impression on me, he said. And since then, for the past 33 years, I've looked at the mirror every morning and asked myself, if today were the last day of my life, would I want to do what I am about to do today? And whenever the answer has been no for too many days in a row, I know I need to change something. Remembering that I'll be dead soon is the most important tool I've ever encountered to help me make the big choices in life. Because almost everything, all external expectations, all pride, all fear of embarrassment or failure, these things just fall away in the face of death, leaving only what is truly important. Remembering with beautiful commitment that you are going to die. It's the best way I know to avoid the trap of thinking you have something to lose. You are already naked. There is no reason not to follow your heart. No reason. About a year ago, Steve writes, I was diagnosed with cancer. I had a scan at 7:30 in the morning, and it clearly showed a tumor on my pancreas. I didn't even know what a pancreas was. The doctors told me this was almost certainly a type of cancer that is incurable, and that I should expect to live no more than 3 to 6 months. My doctor advised me to go home, get my affairs in order, which is doctor's code for prepare to die. It means to try to tell your kids everything you thought you'd have the next 10 years to tell them in just a few months. It means to make sure everything is buttoned up so that be as easy as possible for your family. It means to say your goodbyes. I lived with that diagnosis all day. Later that evening, I had a biopsy where they stuck an endoscope down my throat, through my stomach and into my intestines, and put a needle into my pancreas and got a few cells from the tumor. I was sedated, but my wife, who was there, told me that when they viewed the cells under a microscope, the doctors started crying because it turned out to be a very rare form of pancreatic cancer that is curable with surgery. I had the surgery and I'm fine now, he writes. This was the closest I've been to facing death, and I hope it's the closest I get for a few more decades. Having lived through it, I can now say this to you with a bit more certainty, that when death was a useful but purely intellectual concept, no one wants to die. Even people who want to go to heaven don't want to die to get there. And yet death is the destination that we all share. It's our common bond. No one has ever escaped it, and that is as it should be, because death is very likely the single best adventure in life. It is life's change agent. It clears out the old to make way for the new. Right now, the new is you. But someday, not too long from now, you will gradually become the old and be cleared away. Sorry to be so dramatic, but that's just how it is. Your time is limited, so don't waste it living someone else's life. Don't be trapped by dogma, which is living with the results of other people's thinking. Not knocking their thinking, it's perfectly appropriate for them. But don't let the noise of others' opinions drown out your own inner voice. And most important, have the courage to follow your heart, your intuition. They somehow already know what you truly want to become. Everything else is secondary. Stay hungry. Stay foolish. Steve Jobs, talking to the graduating class at the Stanford commencement speech in 2005. A little while later, he was dealing with it again. The idea of not wasting time, the idea of exercising your creativity while you still have an earth connection, and then the idea to examine the ways in which that exchange of energies can be maximized in terms of its impact, the loving grace of its impact on the people you encounter. How can it be? How can I maximize my presence here as a presence of love? And quite often we get lost in that. We begin to fall prey to the notion that it's got to be some great big grand gesture for it to have any meaning or significance. And all that implies is that we haven't really yet learned to read the human heart with any kind of accuracy or with any kind of appreciation for the quality of the gestures that turn our hearts on, that bring the tears to our eyes for the beauty of the gesture, you know? Consider this for a moment. Our 14-year-old dog, Abby, died last month. The day after she died, my 4-year-old daughter, Meredith, was crying and talking about how much she missed Abby. She asked if we could write a letter to God so that when Abby got to heaven, God would recognize her. I told her that I thought we could do so, so she dictated these words. Dear God, will you please take care of my dog? She died yesterday and is with you in heaven. I miss her very much. I am happy that you let me have her as my dog, even though she got sick. I hope you will play with her. She likes to play with balls and to swim. I am sending a picture of her, so when you see her, you will know that she is my dog. I really miss her. Love, Meredith. We put the letter in an envelope with a picture of Abby and Meredith and addressed it to God in care of heaven. We put our return address on it, and then Meredith pasted several stamps on the front of the envelope because she said it would take lots of stamps to get the letter all the way to heaven. That's called belief in action. Absolute faith in action. That afternoon, she dropped it into the letterbox at the post office. A few days later, she asked if God had gotten the letter yet. I told her that I thought he had. Yesterday, there was a package wrapped in gold paper on our front porch, addressed to Meredith. In an unfamiliar hand, Meredith opened it, and inside was a book by Mr. Rogers called When a Pet Dies. And taped to the inside front cover was the letter we had written to God in its opened envelope. On the opposite page was a picture of Abby and Meredith, and this note: Dear Meredith, Abby arrived safely in heaven. Having the picture was a big help. I recognized Abby right away. Abby isn't sick anymore. Her spirit is here with me, just like it stays in your heart. Abby loved being your dog. Since we don't need our bodies in heaven, I don't have any pockets to keep your picture in. So I'm sending it back to you in this little book for you to keep and have something to remember Abby by. Thank you for the beautiful letter, and thank your mother for helping you write it and sending it to me. What a wonderful mother you have. I picked her especially for you. I send my blessings every day, and remember that I love you very much. By the way, I'm easy to find. I am wherever there is love. Love God. Now just for a moment, let your attention shift to what's moving in you right now. That profound and powerful sense of like, wow. Ooh, it's just so beautiful. Seems like tears are the only thing to really authentically capture the grace of what's moving in us now. And all the result of a human being taking a few minutes of his life to respond to that. Doesn't get any better than that. No. Nothing we can do so magnifies the grace of our energies, our capacities to respond. It's a Mother Teresa picking up another one. Not a special one, just another one. It's an agent of the Postal Service. And I thought, what a damn shame it would be to close all the post offices. Stuff like that. Let's just keep it in our hearts. I would invite us to remember there's a lot of ways to share the gift of your compassion and your love. There's a lot of ways to touch other people's lives with gestures that heal them in the moment. This Abby's healed. Meredith is healed through love, through caring, and a willingness to express it. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for listening.